Before we get to episode 121, I'd like to ask for your support of the Keystone chapter of the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. Go to ican'tseeyou.com/coffee. That will take you to the White Cane Coffee Company website. Make a purchase and the Keystone chapter earns a 10% commission. Thanks so much for your support. I really do appreciate it.
From Studio B in Swarthmore, this is the I Can't See You podcast with David. It's like blind people for dummies.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 121 of the I Can't See You podcast. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. I really appreciate you joining me for this episode. And before I get into a couple of stories that I have to tell you, I did want to mention where else you can find the podcast. I know some people listen through the website at ican'tseeyou.com. And remember, I Can't See You is only 7 letters long, even though it sounds like a whole sentence. You can't always listen over there, but you can obviously listen through Apple Podcasts and Spotify and iHeartRadio. But there's one place that just changed their name, and I just love the new name. Radio.com became Odyssey. And when I first heard it through my screen reader, I thought, man, are they saying Odyssey? And then when I saw it written and I had zoomed in, I'm like, Odyssey, wow, that is great. So you can find it over there. And obviously the app may still be branded if you have it on your phone. You might still see it as radio.com because right before I recorded, I was updating some things and mine still was listed under radio.com. And so you can check it out there. And there's a few other places too, but obviously the big ones are Spotify and Apple Podcast. And obviously if you subscribe, you can get them downloaded every week and you won't miss an episode unless you want to. But I do have a couple of things to talk about this week. And both are somewhat health related. And I'm not sure which one to start with. So I'm going to start with the shorter of the two stories. And both of them have implications from me not being able to see that, kind of played a part in both stories. The first one is, if you listened to last week's episode, I talked to you about Ziggy and how he needed the surgery. And right before he needed the surgery, Liz and I had signed up for insurance, for pet insurance. It was recommended a couple of weeks before that by a vet that we took him to when they had to make him vomit to throw up a sock that he had taken right off of Liz's foot and swallowed because it was obviously one of those small socks that just go up to the ankle or just below the ankle or whatever. She said, look, you really should sign up for insurance. So because Ziggy is registered at AKC, American Kennel Club, we started getting all these different emails, at 21 weeks, this is what he should be doing, and this is what you can do. And one of the things that we got was for a pet insurance. And we thought, okay, it's free. They offered it for a free 30-day trial. And we thought, okay, well, we figured this is good. How many different versions could there be? And when we signed up for it, we're good. And I'm thinking, okay, then we got the news that, he had to have the surgery. And then we got the bill. It was $4,500 or so. Actually, a little bit more because we had to take him to 2 vets, our main vet and then the place that did the surgery. So after all was said and done last week when we brought him home, after he had spent the day or the night at the vet out in Norristown where they did the surgery, we had all the paperwork from that vet and we had the paperwork from the local vet. And the local vet, it was only a few $100s. I want to say $270 or $230. I don't remember. But I submitted that as well because, we read that there was a deductible. And when we were going through, and Liz had gone through, we sat down together. So Liz was reading the stuff. And we don't do a lot of things together because, sometimes she will ask me to do something and I'll do it after she goes to bed. And sometimes I'll ask her to do stuff, that pertains to either, looking into something, she'll do it. She wakes up early. I go to bed late. And, it works out that, by the time I get up, if she's looking into something, she has an answer for me, or by the time she wakes up, I have an answer for her, depending on, what we're looking for. But we sat down together to do this. So we read through the things. Liz read through the different things. And I said, just go ahead and let's just do it. And then we can determine if we want to keep it or move on. It gave us a very false sense of security. And and just so you know, all dogs, who knows how many dogs are named Ziggy in the U.S. So when you submit paperwork for the dog at not the insurance, but when you register them with the AKC, they have to have a unique name. So Ziggy's name is the breeder's name, which is Moongate Golden Retriever. So Moongate, and then the breeder knew that our previous dog from 15 years that died about 15 years ago, his name was Zamboni. So she said, "How about Slapshot?" And I said, okay, that's fine. It doesn't really matter. We're never going to call him that, but it's just funny when I get all the paperwork, it says Moongate Slapshot, and it always makes me chuckle a little bit. So, so we filled out the paperwork for the insurance. Liz did it. And, I get the email almost right away saying that, okay, we're good to go, starting on the 2nd of April. And of course, on the 6th of April, I'm submitting a claim. Maybe it was the 7th. I don't remember. But I send in the bill from both places. And like I said, it was like $4,600 or something like that. So I'm thinking, and all I could hear as I sent this in is, I could hear my dad saying, "They're not going to pay you that." And I could just hear him. I could just, they gave it to you for free. They're not going to pay him that. And my argument to hearing my dad's words was, well, why would they offer this to us if it's not going to be, it's 30 days. It's just 1 month. If you like it, obviously you sign up. Well, here's the bad part. We don't like it. And here's why. A couple days after I submitted it, or maybe early this week, I don't quite remember, I got the information back saying what they were going to pay us. And it's going to be $500. And so I called them and I said, I'm not quite sure I understand this. Is there more than, I explained, I can't see. And, my wife and I kind of did it together. My wife, read through some things. I said, is there more than one version? Is there different coverage we could have had? Because from what we read in the email, and the emails I did listen to, when it talked about it, what it would cover, any kind of expenses, and it led me to believe that this was, an insurance that you would want. I don't know why, and as Liz was looking through the AKC insurance website, she's reading to me, what the insurance normally costs. And she says $71 or $76 or something like that. And I thought, okay, well, this must be, decent insurance. So, we tried it and then, then everything happened. Ziggy ate whatever it was he ate and had the surgery and so forth and so on. So she said, oh yeah, no, there's different, what the basic policy that you have normally costs is like $26. And I said, oh, okay. So we either didn't read something or missed something. I said, it says all this somewhere. And she said, oh yes, it's very transparent. It always says it. So the bottom line, it is on us, of course, because it always is on us, because whether it's on us or we were duped, it's it's still our fault. So now instead of getting, somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000 back, we'll be getting $500 back, and we will never use that again. And just left us obviously with a very bad taste in our mouth from, I guess that's a bad analogy since he ate something and had to have it surgically removed, and had to, learn the hard way. So as I had posted in, we're in a group, which I think I've mentioned, of all the siblings and some of the other relatives of the dogs. People, the topic came up about insurance, and this was after Ziggy had the surgery. And, some people had, recommended one thing. The breeder had recommended, not that she had it, but another company, and we're going to go with that other company. In fact, we tried to do it yesterday, but it was after hours, and they were closed. I think they went until 7:00. And, during the week, it's so hard for us to get anything done. Once, we usually don't eat dinner until 7 or 7:30. And, after that is when we can get to things like this. So, we're going to try to do it today before Liz actually, starts with dinner, when she gets home. So, we're going to give that a try. And, we're expecting to pay, I don't know, $50 to $80 a month, for the insurance. And, we'll have better peace of mind. And, so now when you mention the AKC, we both have a terrible taste in our mouth from that. And when I talked to Michaela at the AKC Pet Insurance, to ask her about everything, I said, is there someone there from the marketing department that would be willing to come on the podcast? Because, it's, while it sounds like it was our fault for not either seeing it or reading it, and I haven't, I just didn't think it was worth the time. It's done. It's not, there's nothing that I could do. There's, I can't change the policy. The policy had a per incident payout top of $500. So I have to be honest, I'm not even sure we're going to get the $500 because there's always a deductible. So, once I get some money in the mail, I'll let you all know. And she's like, oh no, nobody wants to come on the podcast. And I said, okay. I said, I told her, I said, you realize that, in the email that we got, it's, talking about peace of mind, and it's talking about getting covered and try this for free. And, and after I hung up, I could just hear my dad saying, see, they're not going to give you anything. It's a drop in the bucket. $500, it's something. But if they listened to this and didn't like any of the things I had to say and said, fine, we're not going to pay you, would I be any madder? Probably not. Because it's already to the point where if somebody asks me, hey, I heard about the AKC, I'd say, nope, stay away. Don't bother with it. It's not worth it. And maybe the paid version that's a lot more expensive than the free version is, but I won't even give it a chance because I feel that it's, and I guess I should go back and maybe read the emails to see. Liz and I both went over the emails. I listened to it. She read it, a couple of times. And, and I said to her, look, we better do this insurance. And, we did, obviously, but, we're still out, over $4,000 that, it's a painful lesson, both for Ziggy and for us. So, that old saying goes, you never get a free lunch or free insurance. So that is the AKC Pet Insurance, and it's underwritten by some other company and whatever. But, again, you're looking for pet insurance for your cat or dog or whatever you have in your backyard. Look elsewhere. And once I figure out what we're going to go with, because I don't remember the name of the company, I'll post it in the show notes. I'll update the show notes with the company. So that's one medical issue. The other medical issue isn't nearly as horrific, I hope. On Friday, about a week ago, and I'm recording this the day it drops on Thursday, the 15th of April. Last Friday, I was able to get the first Moderna shot of 2. And when we found out that there were appointments available, Liz signed both Jane and I up, hoping that Jane would be able to get it at that point, and hoping that she'd be able to, help me navigate through. She didn't know how it would be, getting into there and so forth and so on. I got the Moderna shot, or we got the Moderna shot through our county. So it wasn't a place that I was familiar in going. So we signed up, we do all the paperwork, we bring it in with us, and Jane and I go in, and I mean, it's just a maze into a big basketball floor, where you go to one person and, they go over hey, do you feel sick? And hey, this and hey, that. And then you go to the next person and, you're just basically it's just like a line for, it's like going through a couple of lines, like you're going onto a ride at Disney World. Then they schedule the second shot before you get this shot. And you're basically going from one station to another. But again, stuff is everywhere on this big open, it was at a community center that was a basketball floor. So, when we went from the person who we checked in with, who took the paperwork and actually entered it into the computer to give us the next appointment, there were aisles, but it wasn't defined. She said, oh, you just have to go over there. And of course, I don't know where over there is, as I've explained a million times, but Jane said, oh, I said, Jane, do you see where we have to go? And she said, yes. And, she grabbed my arm and led me. But, of course, it's a basketball floor. And, every one of these stations where you go to check in, and we checked in at number 3, by the way. There's all sorts of wiring on the floor. So, all sorts of tripping hazards and whatnot. So, so Jane and I go over, we go through, and I'm just standing there as we're going up to this lady who's taking the sheets and entering it into the computer. I'm thinking, there is no way that I would have been able to do it on my own, because, I would have been able to walk through the door, because the person would say, okay, you got to go, what's your name? Do you have your paperwork? She takes a look at the paperwork real fast and said, okay, it's filled out right. Go to the next person. And then you go to the next person, and that person asks you if you're feeling sick and so forth. And okay, we're going to wait a second. And, of course, everything is being socially distant, but there's just markings on the floor. Of course, what else would there be? So doing that, and even at a store, it's hard on me when I'm with Liz, so, you were winding through this thing to get to, and it's in this hallway outside of the basketball court area. So you basically go the length of the hallway and then kind of do a U-turn and then come back and then go into the basketball area. And then you go to another person, and I don't remember what that person said, basically reminded us that they're going to schedule, you're going to go in and you're going to, actually, I forgot. There was somebody else after the person that checked us in right before going into the basketball floor. Oh, we go to this woman that says, okay, are you allergic to any of these things? And she just points to a form on the table. And I'm like, oh. And Jane starts reading them, and, of course, some of them are, some of the things sounded like, if you've ever seen the movie Legally Blonde, in the courtroom scene where she's talking about the stuff in the perm, some of the things sounded like that. And, so I took out my phone, and, I have it set up that once I unlock it to use Seeing AI, I just say, Siri, what does this say? And, it'll open Seeing AI, so I don't have to hunt for the for the app. I made a shortcut, and, so it pulls it up, and, I line it up and I hear it, the sound, and, it takes the image, and I start listening to it. And, Jane said it confused the girl. And, meanwhile, she's asking us questions. I wasn't, I might have answered, but I don't know that I was fully paying attention to her. And I said, all right, well, I'm going to get the shot. I don't know if I'm allergic to any of those things. In my life, the only medicine, to my knowledge, that I've been allergic to, I once was put on this eye drop called Alpha-Gan P. And it wasn't horrible, but, it made my eye feel crazy and itchy. And, and the more I took it, the more it, the worse it got. So I was only on that for a week or two. But, at first I didn't notice, right away that, or maybe I just didn't put two and two together, that it was the drop that was making my eye feel that way. And, so, we go from that lady, then she tells us to go to number 10 and, or number 3, I mean, then that lady gives us some more questions about, our birth dates and this and that and the other. And she's entering them in and she's explaining you have to come back for the second shot and so forth and so on. And, we just ask her that if the second shot could be at the same time, because we went at 5:30 in the afternoon, so Jane could not miss too much work. I mean, Jane works, as I've mentioned before, she worked usually until at least 7 o'clock at night. But since it was a Friday, she thought, if I take a couple hours, and we left at 5 in the afternoon for the 5:30 appointment, she figured that would be okay. So the second shot we have for 5 or 5:30, I don't remember exactly when, but it's the 14th of May as our second dose. So from that lady who scheduled us, and she's given us the cards that we need to bring back, and then we go to probably the most pleasant of the people, who was the lady actually sticking us, and she's explaining everything, and here's what I'm going to do, and this is this, and this is that, and here's the card. Make sure everybody told us, make sure you take a picture of the card in case you lose it. So Jane has taken a picture of our cards to this point, and she has them in her office upstairs, where it's fairly neat, and the dog doesn't go into very often because dog's not allowed in there, unless Jane is with him and on top of him. Occasionally she'll leave the door open when she's not in there, and he'll get in, but so far he hasn't, and he hasn't gotten to our cards. So, when we get to this last person that does the jab, she's telling us everything, and she says, "Oh, it's so nice, your daughter, your daughter's, guiding you through this, and it's so nice that," and she's like, "Yeah, you're good. You try to be good to them through their lifetime, so that look, they're gonna determine where what nursing home you go into, or if you even have to go into a nursing home." And she was great, and she did the jab great. The one thing that confused me, before she gave me the jab, she put something on my arm, and I thought, what is she doing? I didn't quite get what it was. So after we finished, again, I couldn't even tell that she had stuck me the way she was holding my arm. After we got out and walked away from her and going into the quote unquote recovery area that you have to spend 15 minutes in, I said, what did she put on my arm before she stuck me? It almost seemed like she put something on and then she stuck like was it like a target? I didn't know what it was. And Jane explained that she put, and I thought this was very smart, she put the Band-Aid on halfway, like one side of the sticky stuff she put on. The other part was flapping around, the padded part and the other sticky part. She did the shot and then just was able to easily close the Band-Aid onto my arm. So, it was, there were no issues. It was closed up right away. And I thought, wow, that was pretty smart thinking there. And obviously the girl has done hundreds or thousands of shots. So she's gotten the pattern down and a system down. So, and as we're going through each section, I just kept thinking, a blind person couldn't do this on their own. They'd need to have somebody guide them, whether it was somebody with them or it was somebody who works there. And when we went, it wasn't crazy busy, but, like I said, there was a line. We had to go through the line and through the chutes. And, from the looks of it, the final stage before we got the shot going, there was, it was like going to a ride at Disney World, but you didn't have to wait you still had to do the zigzags of the ropes, but, there was, maybe two people in front of us. And so, so that part was good, but, it's always difficult for me to go through those because, again, I don't want to hit people in the ankles with the cane. I know that's why it's there, so you don't knock them over with your full body weight as you run into them. But again, it startles people. And, the other thing is, obviously now you want to keep social distance from people. So, I'm glad Jane was able to do it. And I guess Liz probably could have helped. If Jane either wasn't allowed to do it or didn't have time to go over there then. Liz has already been vaccinated with the Johnson & Johnson, which I may or may not have mentioned. She got the shot in mid-March, which after all the news this week of the J&J shot, we were happy that she's past that first couple of weeks. And she'll kill me for saying this, she's a little bit older than that target range that they said to be careful. Just a couple years past the upper tier of that, but still past. So I know she felt not funny, but she felt it for maybe 4 or 5 days to a week of not feeling herself after getting the J&J shot, but nothing serious like everybody's talking about on the news and for the pause and everything. So I just wonder if, thinking of some of the people that I know who are in the Keystone chapter or other folks who I've met along the way at different NFB events, who live by themselves, what they have to do to get the shot, and have to navigate that. And I'm guessing some of them are, depending on where they live, are able to use I know around here, they're starting to go to people's houses to do the shots, if they can't get out, on their own. And, obviously if you're blind and you don't want to have to do public transport because, again, you're touching everything when you're getting on a subway or a bus or whatever. And, navigating through, again, where there the potential for a lot of sick people, are. And then getting to the venue where you're getting the shot, whether it's a doctor's office, a hospital, a community center, wherever, a drugstore, or getting in an Uber, and then it's going to cost you a couple more dollars to get there. Although I think the NFB had set something up with either Uber or Lyft to do either a low cost or no cost ride share, for blind folks to get the shot. And I don't know if it was low cost or no cost, but there was some sort of deal with Lyft made. So that part is good. But again, getting through, a big venue like this. And I know in New York City, for example, I know they were using, Javits Center, places like that. So I just can't even imagine how many people are, going through, and what kind of time frame and stuff like that. So I was happy that Jane was able to do it. And I actually, to be honest, I wanted the J&J one because I wanted the one and done. But, again, I wasn't picky. I was able to get the one and the Moderna. And, obviously now I have to hopefully live with it. If I'm not on next week or after May 14th, you'll know what happened. I wasn't able to. But that is all I have for you this week. And I hope you continue to stay safe. And if you do want the shot, I know it's a little easier to get now. So please look around. And I hope you'll opt to get it. It'll be better for everyone if you get it. Check around, see where you can get it and get it taken care of. In the meantime, continue to stay safe, be well, wear your mask or don't, but don't come near me yet. And I will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the I Can't See You podcast with David. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. And don't forget to share the podcast with your friends.